Shalom, friends. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for joining us for this special program. We're very happy to have you. In just a moment, I believe we're going to be going live as well. We are here together at Valley Beit Midrash, which has 3 pillars to our work. We have adult education, pluralistic adult learning. We have leadership development for young professionals. And we also have social action. And tonight is interweaving adult learning and social action. So we can not only be informed about an important issue of justice as it relates to our state, but also what we can do about that if we want to be involved in addressing that. So thank you for being here. And thank you to our friends at Temple Solel for helping to promote and be a great partner as always. Great to see Rabbi Steele and Peter Pishko. And it's a delight to be able to introduce my friend Judy Schaffert, who is going to teach us tonight about judicial integrity as it relates to the state of Arizona. A very important issue. Glad to see others trickling in. Judy Schaffert, who's a longtime member of Temple Solel in Paradise Valley, studied as a member of the Wexner Foundation Heritage Program, mentors with the Women's Leadership Institute, and has taught at Arizona Limmud and the Arizona Bar Foundation. A retired career civil servant, she served most recently as chief staff attorney on the Arizona Supreme Court. Before that, she practiced law as an assistant Arizona Attorney General and clerked for Arizona Supreme Court Chief Justice William A. Holohan. A native of New Jersey, she earned a BA from Yale in English and her JD from UCLA School of Law. Judy is also a past president of the National Association of Appellate Court Attorneys, the Jess Schwartz Jewish Community High School, the Jewish Tuition Organization, and Temple Solel. She and her husband, Mike, have 2 adult sons, and both were married under a chuppah. Also, at AJJ, we have celebrated Judy as having received a Justice Champion Award for excellence in service and character. Personally, I can say as a friend and as a student of Judy's, her brilliance is only matched by her kindness. It's a delight to have Judy here, and we hope that you will participate. Judy's going to present. You'll have the chance to ask questions in the chat. And if you're ever confused or need some clarification, feel free to also raise your hand, either physically or with your Zoom hand, and Judy can pause and make sure that everything is clear for everyone. After the presentation, we'll have a chance to have a conversation and ask other questions of Judy. Before we start, I want to just flag 3 other issues. One is that we have a humanitarian bus that is always out in the road, out in the streets, addressing needs of our unsheltered friends, asylees, and the like. If you ever want to volunteer or have supplies you want to give that we can help to bring to people who are desperate for all types of support, feel free to do that. We also have many campaigns for allyship, where we are developing relationships and building bridges across the community. And the last issue I just want to bring to our attention tonight is the issue of DC statehood, an issue that AJJ has gotten more and more involved with to be sure to protect democracy in the coming months, not only protecting election integrity and all we can do with that, but also making sure every American has the chance to fully vote and participate in American democracy. And it turns out that Senator Kelly is one of the few senators, at least in the Democratic Party, who is holding out on DC statehood. And this is very much winnable if Arizona were to get involved in ensuring DC statehood. So anyways, back to judicial integrity. It's my pleasure to welcome our friend Judy Schaffert.
Thank you so much, Shmuley. You're excessively kind. I am going to jump right in to my PowerPoint, and I would love for you all to learn. That's my major effort here today, is to make it possible for everyone to understand what gives in the Arizona judiciary. So let's get started. Okay, the Arizona Judiciary Senate Continuing Resolution 1044 which is now called Proposition 137. It's on the ballot, and I'm hoping that all of you are voters. If you're not, we'll get into that later. Okay, this is what we're going to cover: the history of Arizona courts, how our judges are selected and retained, because unlike the federal system, we do not have life appointments of judges in Arizona. We'll look at SCR 1044, which I will refer to as Prop 137, and the actions you can choose to take in the ballot this November 5th. All right, so Arizona wasn't always a state. As you know, sometimes it's called State 48. It was a territory before it was a state, and it was, along with New Mexico, together one territory. So in the territorial times, we did have a legislature, and we had our voters had initiative because this was a populist state, and our voters adopted the Arizona Constitution in 1910. But President Taft didn't like some aspects to it, and he put the kibosh on statehood until 1912, after they changed a couple of things. And then in 1912, once we had statehood on Valentine's Day, and then our legislature established inferior courts. By inferior courts, I mean justice courts and municipal courts and the Superior Court of Arizona. In 1960, things cooked along pretty steadily until 1960, when the voters of the state approved the Modern Courts Amendment. That established administrative power of the state Supreme Court over all of the other courts in the state. That's probably the most important thing for you to know about the Modern Courts Amendment. In 1965, our legislature, with the authority it was given in 1960, established a Court of Appeals. So we, in the courts of record, we have the Superior Court, which is a trial court. You have felonies tried there. You have lawsuits over larger amounts of money, and those cases get trials in the Superior Court, and then they can appeal to the Court of Appeals. And there are some grounds to ask for the state Supreme Court to review. That's the hierarchy. It's kind of parallel to the federal system. In 1970, the voters wanted to rein in the judges a little bit and established a Commission on Judicial Conduct to determine whether judges were adhering to ethical rules. And then in 1974, we had a sea change. And a major mover behind this was Sandra Day O'Connor, whom you know as the first woman to serve as an Associate Justice on the United States Supreme Court. The voters approved merit selection and retention of Superior Court judges in the larger counties, started at 150,000 population, and the appellate judges. So the Court of Appeals judges and the Supreme Court judges. And then in 1992, there was a further democratization of Arizona courts by the approval of a measure requiring public input to judicial performance review, not just the people on the Conduct Commission, and public input on the nominating commissions. So Arizona has a tradition of the voters having a pretty good voice in who gets to be on the bench. The question then is, how do they get onto that bench? So before 1974, all of the judges in Arizona were elected. That's from the you could say the dog catcher level, the justice courts, which we still elect, and the requirements for a justice of the peace is you have to be 18 years old and you have to be able to read and write English. So the standards in the Constitution are very, very low. But if you think about the population of Arizona in 1912, it kind of makes sense because there wasn't a lot of college education at the time, and there were certainly very, very few law schools. So post 74, when we had that amendment that people voted in, there's merit selection for the largest counties, which is now 250,000 and above in population. So we have 3 counties that fit that. That's Maricopa, Pima, and Pinal. And then the other counties have the option to opt into merit selection, which Coconino has done. It has a population of less than 150,000, and it does have merit selection also because it opted in. Then for each county has a nominating commission, the 4 counties that have merit selection, and the governor appoints the judges. The governor also has big input into the nominating commissions, and the people who are put on the nominating commissions, there has to be a party balance, there has to be geographic balance, and they have to have lived in the location of their commission. So there's 2 for the Court of Appeals, one for Northern Arizona, one for Southern Arizona, and those people have to live in those districts also. And the governor will appoint the judge from a list that the nominating commission selects from however many applicants for a vacancy. How long are Arizona judges' terms? So Superior Court judges, the center one, so they're the trial court judges of the more significant cases. They have a term of 4 years. And Court of Appeals judges and Supreme Court justices have terms of 6 years under our Constitution. And that was adopted in the Modern Courts Amendments. Those terms were set. Here's the trick one. Municipal judges and Superior Court commissioners do not have terms under our Constitution. They are appointed by, some municipalities have a merit style selection, but they serve at the will of the municipality that they serve, and the Superior Court commissioners are employees of the Superior Court and serve at the pleasure of the chief judge of each Superior Court. Why should we care about judicial performance? Because we get to vote about our judges every 4 and 6 years. So they made a very simple place to find things online. You go to azjudges.info, and then you can get information, reports, videos, and news about the judicial performance function. Looks like we have a question. Are the terms of judges staggered? So yes, you won't have all the judges every time. Maricopa County Superior Court, for example, has well over 100 divisions, and only half of them will be on the ballot every 2 years, because they have 4-year terms. And the Supreme Court, you have 7 justices now, and they've got 6-year terms. So every 2 years, you'll have 2 or 3 justices who are up for retention. This year, we have 2 Arizona Supreme Court justices up for retention. And there's some controversy about that. I'm not going to comment on that too much. Where was I? Okay, I have a movie for you.
Voting is important. I mean, we all know that. After all, it is the foundation of our nation. But before you put on that I voted sticker, answer one question. Did you finish the ballot? Now, you probably voted for the president, maybe the governor, even the mayor. But what about the judges? You see, in 4 of Arizona's larger counties, Maricopa, Pima, Pinal, and Coconino, judges are chosen through something called merit selection. It's a system that finds the people who are the most qualified and then lets the governor make the final decision. It served Arizona well since 1974. But while the governor chooses, you decide whether they stay on the job. You see, the judges face something called a retention election. It's a simple thumbs up or thumbs down by you, the public. But how do you decide? Well, Arizona voters created something called Judicial Performance Review, judges get judged. They get judged by the public, they get judged by lawyers, and in the end, they get a score. High enough? Well, that means thumbs up. Too low? Thumbs down. So where do you find this score? It's easy. Just go to azjudges.info. You can quickly find whether the judges met the standards or not. It takes just a few minutes. And when you're done, you can wear that I voted sticker with pride because you finished the ballot. If you want to learn more, just go to azjudges.info.
There was a question about the whether commissioners are subject to the retention elections. The answer is no. Commissioners are employees of the court, just like I was an employee of a different court, but they are superior court employees, so they are not subject to retention elections. If someone has an issue with a commissioner, they can always complain to the chief judge, I guess. Any other questions?
Yes.
Okay, Ruth.
My question is, the people who are judging, the ones who are making these judgments, are they politically inclined, or are they, on what points are they making these calls and these recommendations? Can they be people who we trust to make those recommendations?
You mean the commissioners who are on the appellate or the superior court appointments, the nominating committees?
Right. How are they?
How are they chosen?
Right.
Some of them are nominated by the state bar. Some of them are nominated by the legislature, and some of them are nominated by the governor. And they're all subject to Senate confirmation. That's who the commissioners are. And are they politically minded? Undoubtedly, some of them are more politically minded than others. By and large, and I've known people who used to be superior court judges or other court judges who have also served in their retirement on these nominating commissions. And the nominating commissions engage in a very rigorous process to vet the judges, the potential judges. So they have a very long application. It's like a 40-page application. You have to list all of the cases you've been involved in, list opposing counsel, list the judge, list the issues. You have to have references from all different aspects of your life, and you have to explain why you want to be a judge and all the things that go into it. So it's very rigorous. Now, do people who apply have political opinions? Everybody's got a political opinion who thinks a whole lot about government. By and large, I have found that most people who want to become judges want to do so because they care about the administration of justice and of doing things fairly. For people who are in private practice, it's often a significant pay cut. So they do it out of a sense of public service and because that's important to them.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Judy, I have a question. It's Noreen.
Okay.
I have a question about the judges, how they vote, how they ruled on certain things, like the abortion issue, for instance. I'm curious to know if that's on the AZ Judges info thing.
You know, you'd have to look at opinions to know how people have ruled on things. And there are political groups who make it their business to publicize those things. And I'm not going to talk about that because I do not personally believe that one decision that a judge makes is necessarily the best way to decide whether to vote for their retention. The question really is, how are they doing overall? And you may be passionate enough about that one issue that you choose to do it that way. And that's, you're a voter, that's your choice. I'm going to resume. Now I'm going to talk about what Prop 137 will do and the changes that would be. I just wanted to get everyone solidly understanding how the system is right now, because that's important to understand the proposed changes. How a continuing resolution gets on the ballot. It has to be basically a continuing resolution is an enactment of the legislature that isn't subject to the governor's veto or signing, but it goes into effect only when it goes onto the ballot. And basically, most of them are they're asking to amend the Constitution, because Arizona's Constitution cannot be amended by our legislature. Arizona's Constitution can only be amended by a proposition that goes before the voters, either by initiative or by a continuing resolution from either the House or the Senate. But a continuing resolution has to be passed by both houses in the ordinary course of like legislation, and then it gets referred to the voters. And because it got referred, it gets a proposition number, which is 137. What it proposes to do is the rest of the next 5-10 minutes that I'm going to talk about. It's going to change the judicial retention process, which is what we're talking about now. So every proposition that goes on the ballot gets an official title and a descriptive title. Now, this is kind of dense. You don't have to go with the official title. Proposition 137 will be sufficient. And then later on in the ballot that you get, it'll say a yes vote means ABC, a no vote means things stay as they are. So this is the official title, and this is the descriptive title given by the people who propose it. So it eliminate the most important thing to remember here is, you know how we talked about the 4- and 6-year terms? This eliminates judicial terms and the regular retention elections, and it also nullifies the results of this upcoming judicial retention election. So it's retroactive to before the election. You're saying, I don't want my vote to count, essentially, if you vote yes on this, for all of these merit-selected judges, and it allows the justices and judges to hold office during what's called good behavior until they hit age 70. So that age 70 was in the Constitution before. The change is that these regular every 4-year or every 6-year retention elections are not going to occur as they have been. It's not going to be automatic. So the question is, what are there still retention elections, or are they eliminated? What's good behavior? It would eliminate the office terms, those 4 years and 6 years, for judges and justices. It would have judges continue in office, as it said, during good behavior. What good behavior it is? Probably judicial ethics, but there may be an additional monkey wrench in there. It will keep the mandatory retirement at age 70. So if you are age 70, but you're already having issues with mentation, with thinking, you're going to have to retire. If you're age 70 and you're going to have another good 25 years, it doesn't matter. An Arizona judgment must retire at the age of 70. That person could always run for justice of the peace if they wanted to. It gives the Senate and House, this is the Arizona Senate, the Arizona House, 1 member each on the Judicial Performance Review Commission. Remember the people who are giving thumbs up or thumbs down in that video to the each of the judges. It would also, this is an interesting one, it provides for retention elections if someone has a criminal conviction, which yay, personal bankruptcy or mortgage foreclosure. And you can understand that because if someone is in financial straits or their house is being foreclosed, the opportunities or the inclination to be more corrupt is a danger for a judge, because a judge could say, well, here's somebody who will save me from my personal bankruptcy by bailing me out, getting that cleared out, or they can help me with my mortgage. That's a problem. And not meeting judicial performance standards. So that would be how they're judged right now. So the retention elections are not eliminated altogether, but they would be automatic if you're criminally convicted, you have a bankruptcy or foreclosure, or you don't meet judicial performance standards. The question is, why would they continue to be evaluated? They are going to be evaluated every 4 years, but they don't automatically have elections. It would require the Judicial Performance Review to investigate if a single legislator alleges that a given judge engaged in a pattern of malfeasance. So it has to be a full-blown investigation. If you have one person who may have a beef with their merit-selected judge, or a merit-selected judge who has nothing to do with them, who may have decided something that legislator didn't like. So in Noreen's example, if I'm a Superior Court judge and Noreen is a legislator, and I made a decision in an abortion case that she did not like, if I permitted a minor to have permission to get an abortion over the parents without parental consent, because Superior Court judges can do that, Noreen might say, I don't like what Judy's done, and I'm gonna ask the Judicial Performance Review Commission to investigate her. So this could be a source of serious harassment by someone who has a point of view that is where a judge is acting in good faith and following Arizona law. They could allege a pattern of malfeasance. That's a problem. The second one is the intermediate appellate court judges. Remember, I said there were 2 divisions. So there's Northern Arizona and Southern Arizona. An appellate court judge who serves in Pima County, for example, if they are subject to a retention vote, maybe from a legislator who doesn't like what they're doing, the entire state of Arizona, not just Southern Arizona, would vote on that appellate court judge. I think that's a problem. And finally, this is the cherry on top. Okay, we've got a question. Let me finish this. I'll get to your question. If approved by the voters this November, and then the governor has just a ministerial duty of proclaiming it, it becomes effective retroactive to November 1st, which means that the results and the vote tally of the election that occurred on November 5th is nullified. So I'm going to stop my share and see, there's something in the chat. A person asked on Facebook, it seems to me that the general public doesn't have very good access to the evaluations to help them make a good decision during the election. I recall the Arizona Republic publishing evaluations, but haven't seen much. Well, one of the issues with that is that it's still early. It's only August. The publicity pamphlet for the courts, even telling people, the publicity pamphlet for the November election isn't even due out till September or early October. Early voting doesn't begin till the first week in October. It's 30 days before the November 5th election. It may be too early for people to get those evaluations, even from the Republic, because what are you going to do? Clip it and then leave it on your table, and it goes under a pile of stuff, and you're going to lose track of it. And by the time your ballot, if you vote by mail, your ballot arrives, it's in your recycling bin somewhere, or the dog's eaten it. azjudges.info is a good place to go back to. You can put a reminder in your calendar to do that in when your ballot arrives. So you could put a reminder for October 5th to go to azjudges.info, and you could get information about the judges you want to vote on. And that's going to be the simplest way for you're going to get at least the judicial performance review listing, and that should be helpful. Yeah, Steve.
Well, disagree with me if you like, but I read every one of those judicial evaluations when the book pamphlet comes, and I find it very helpful in making a decision.
Well, I would
Do
never suggest that it's not helpful. Absolutely. One of the things that has been changed this year is you're not going to get the numbers of votes. You're just going to get the up and down from the judicial performance review, which I find extremely disappointing. I learned that along the way when I was preparing for this, and I think that's a problem, but it isn't something that you get to vote on. So I want to continue talking about the things you do get to vote on, if that's okay. Any other questions about the basic outline? Yes, Ruth.
Which group introduced 137 to be put on the ballot this year? It shows you that I'm pretty naive about things until I get my ballot, and then hopefully look at things.
No need to explain. It's Senator Alexander Collodin was the chief person to introduce what became the continuing resolution in the Senate, and I think he's a Scottsdale senator. I don't know if anybody has him as a senator, but that's the person who did this, and
what reasoning did he give for it, or what is his explanation?
I haven't talked to him. I don't know.
No, I understand.
So one of the things that you can do when your booklet comes, there's going to be arguments for and against each of the ballot propositions. And it's very helpful to look to see who has written the for and the pro and the con arguments. For example, I know that there's going to be an argument or more than one argument that are coming from retired justices of the Arizona Supreme Court, for whom I worked and for whom I have tremendous regard, like former Chief Justice Ruth McGregor, former Chief Justice Scott Bales, and Justice John Palander, all of whom were very fine jurists and all of whom ran commissions, who chaired commissions for judicial selection, and who are very, very familiar with judicial performance review. In fact, Justice Palander, because of one of the decisions that he authored, was subjected to an effort to not have him retained, which was completely unjustified. And he was a very fine justice. So just so you know, there you go. Myra?
Thank you.
Does it matter how many times the judges have been appealed, the number of appeals that a judge has? And if yes, it's no. Okay.
No,
so
it does. A judge's decision can be appealed for all kinds of reasons or no good reason at all. Just because someone brings an appeal doesn't mean that it's going to be successful or that it's justified. It just is what it is. Riva, you have a question?
So is there ever any automatic removal from the bench? Like it says, if you're convicted of a crime, you get put on the ballot for retention. But if you get convicted of a crime, you don't automatically have to leave?
There's not that many judges who get convicted of crimes. I do know of one Superior Court judge who had some felony marijuana charges, and that person ended up not standing for retention. He just resigned. You can have your law license yanked, and that's a problem for continuing to be a judge. And I got to tell you, I don't know completely the answer to the question, but I do know that 6 Superior Court judges have not been retained since 1974, and 1 Court of Appeals judge was not retained since 1974. So it has worked when there's been a need. And I'm going to continue with my presentation. We'll have more questions at the end because I want to get through this. Okay, here's the ballot summary language. A yes vote. So this is going to be on your ballot. A yes vote shall have the effect of amending the Arizona Constitution to eliminate judicial terms for judges of the Arizona Supreme Court and Court of Appeals and judges of the Superior Court in counties with more than 250,000 people. So this is going to be kind of review for you because we just talked about this, but I think it's good to have it kind of pounded in. Voters will no longer have the ability to decide whether to retain those judges at the end of their judicial terms because they're not going to have terms. So you're going to be deprived of your vote. Those judges would instead be subject to a retention election only if they were convicted of crime, fraud, dishonesty, debtor in a bankruptcy proceeding, held a mortgage under foreclosure, and did not meet performance standards. There's a problem with this because some of the judges who were not retained had bad temperaments, bad judicial temperaments. So they were abusive to litigants, or they were rude. There was one guy who cussed like a sailor, and he got booted. There are people who conducted themselves in a manner that was inappropriate, and it's nice to be able to boot these people after after their terms. The House of Representatives and the Senate will each be able to appoint 1 member to the commission. I question whether that's a problem in terms of because if they're sitting senators or House of Representatives people, I question whether that's a separation of powers problem, but we'll find out. If any legislator asks the commission to investigate whether a judge is engaged in misconduct, the commission must investigate. We talked about the moral hazard in that. So the retroactive means that it would cancel your vote in the judicial retention election. So if one of you, or if a majority of Arizona voters said, we do not want to retain Justice X of the Supreme Court, and normally under the current system, that person would not continue in their term, that would be negated by voting yes on 137. I think that's a problem. A no vote will have the effect of maintaining the current system of voters deciding whether to retain a judge at the end of their judicial term. I'm going to save the rest of the questions until at the end, so I know there's one there. So there's going to be a publicity pamphlet like we talked about. It will either come to you by mail, or if you've specified that you will receive things electronically, you will get it around the end of September, beginning of October. That is a very useful tool. You can mark it and see how you want to vote if you're going to go vote in person, or you can use it when you're filling out your early or mail-in ballot. So if you want to learn more, you can go to the azsos.gov and noodle around, or go to azsos.gov/elections, and that information is going to be there. You can learn a lot. This is a great website. We in Maricopa County have so much information about elections and about election results. And if you want to, you can ask to be given information about whether your ballot has been received, whether your mail-in ballot has been accepted and your vote counted. It's great stuff, and I'm a elections enthusiast. So if you are not registered to vote and you are an Arizona resident who is eligible to register to vote, you need to register. For example, if you're 18 years old by November 5th, If you're 17 now, but you'll be 18 on November 3rd, you should register to vote. And an Arizona resident means you live here and you intend to stay. That's what Arizona resident means. You need to have valid Arizona driver's license or ID. So if you don't have that, I recommend you get it as soon as possible. You can go to servicearizona.com or vote.org. If you go to servicearizona.com, it'll show you how to get an Arizona driver's license or ID, or to renew your driver's license. Or you can go to vote.org and then scroll down on that first page to the states, listing of states. You scroll down to Arizona, you click on that, and that'll get you where you need to go. Now, there are people who, there has been some purging of the voter rolls, and I think you should check your registration status on my.arizona.vote before October 7th, because that's the voter registration deadline to vote in the November 5th election. So you might want to write that down, my.arizona.vote, before, and you want to check your registration status. You need to put in your name and your address and either your driver's license number or the last four of your social security number, and it will let you know. And you could also find out what district you're in. Okay, here's some additional resources. I am going to make my PowerPoint available through Arizona Jews 4, number 4, justice.org. And I'm going to be sending it after this broadcast to Rav Shmuley and to Carrie, who will put it on their website. So you can don't have to worry about scribbling these things down now. I want to alert you that on September 4th at 4:30 p.m., an organization called Keep Courts Accountable PAC is going to have a panel discussion, which will include Justices McGregor, Bales, and Palander. And that will be a wonderful way to learn more about the effects of Prop 137. I recommend it to you. Okay, very helpful. Thank you, Rav Shmuley.
Friends, feel free to unmute yourself if you'd like to ask a question now, or you can type it in the chat.
There are separate avenues where proceedings involving misconduct are considered by the Judicial Conduct Commission. So, for instance, when someone has a DUI under existing law, they can be disciplined. Thank you, Steve B. I think that's, or STVEVB. That's very helpful, and thank you for that reminder. Person asks, okay, we have that. Any more questions? Anyone from Facebook, Carrie, who's got questions? Anyone who's on the Zoom
Question
call?
about the likelihood of passing. Do we know from recent polls where the state is at?
Well, the reason I showed the finish the ballot video is there are a large number of people who do not finish the ballot, vote for judges, vote for propositions. So you got to make sure that you get down to the bottom and you vote for the propositions. There are some people who love to vote but don't love to read, and who will vote no on every judge and every proposition. I don't think it's very conscientious. I do know that exists. In this case, that's good because we want it not to pass. But you never know. You never know. I don't think there's been any polling on that.
I think it's very important to remind people, even friends who you assume know that they should vote, to vote. Because what happened, I noticed recently when I bring it up, is that people kind of shrug and say, oh, yeah, I'm registered. And then maybe they are, maybe they aren't. And I noticed also the results of the primaries. They said that voting in primaries was down to like 30%. I believe that's the right number. The Arizona Republic had an article saying that voting, I'm not that that's the same, but still, it's dropped dramatically, the numbers of voters. Well, in primaries, for sure. But here we are, people saying, yeah, well, okay, but. You have to remind all
highest-
your friends.
Yes, absolutely. Everybody should remind all their friends. And you should make sure that when you get if you get a ballot and you vote by mail, fill it out and mail it back right away.
Absolutely.
Do not delay and do not wait until a week before the election, because it has to arrive on election day, by election day. So that you don't want that to happen. You want your vote counted. And if you know somebody who can't get to the polls, you can help them. Those of you who drive, or those of you who can pay for a taxi for someone else, you can get that person to the polls. So that's you should do that, because your right as a citizen to vote is your greatest power. We've got a presidential election. We've got a senatorial election in this state that could determine the balance of power in the Senate. Now, I don't know what anybody's views are, but I think everybody should vote. And we want accountable public servants. And, this is the way you make it. And you have county elections, you have city elections, you have everything going on. You got judges, you got propositions. You're going to have to take a sandwich into that voting booth with you, because it's going to be a long ballot. And I encourage you to stay with it and do it. Your vote counts.
Okay, I see we have a hand up from Doris.
Yeah, I'm interested in the question of citizenship. You didn't mention that. You just need Arizona license. Is that just the state election, but you need to be a citizen for the presidential election? What's the story there?
Good question. You need to be a United States citizen to vote in any election.
Okay.
I
thought so, but
yeah.
can a non-citizen get a driver's license then?
A non-citizen might be able to get a driver's license, but yeah, I'm not an expert on that.
I think if they have a green card.
But you can't vote if you're not a citizen. And you can't vote in an Arizona election unless you are an Arizona resident. Additionally, if you have moved, you want to make sure that you re-register at your new address, because your old address might be very fun, but you need to register at your new address, because that determines the ballot that you get. There are hundreds of different kinds of ballots all over the state by precincts.
Jerry has a question for you, Judy. Thank you.
I don't have a question, but thank you. This is very, very helpful. I was going to make a comment about voter participation, that it often is about 12% in the primaries, but in the general election, we had the highest off-year participation in 22 that we've had in 20 or 30 years. And I think everybody knows Arizona is one of the swing states. So literally every vote could count in this next election in November.
Right. And in 2022, we had an attorney general's race that was determined by less than 300 votes.
Yeah.
Out of more than 2 million votes. So you've got to vote. It matters. It matters tremendously. If anyone says to you, my vote doesn't matter, you can tell them that we have Attorney General Chris Mays, because more people did say my vote matters who voted for her.
Yeah.
And
this open election issue is one that, in my personal point of view, is I'm extremely in favor of open elections. But the parties are dead set against it because it reduces their ability to control the who's on the agenda. But the open elections really push people to appeal to the center of the electorate, which I think is as a Democrat with a small d, not a big D, this is the heart of democracy, is appealing to people who are in the center of the distribution.
Well, and there are a lot of measures on this ballot about which people are very passionate. We have one measure that has gone on, the abortion access measure, where they submitted twice as many signatures, like over 800,000 signatures.
Yeah.
And that bodes well for Arizona, because it means that people want to participate. And I was a court employee, so I officially had no stake in any election, except that I wanted everyone to exercise their rights to vote. And I am a voting nerd. I love it. I want you all to vote. And I've got to tell you, Maricopa County and the state of Arizona have some very conscientious election officials. And we have a very conscientious staff and well-trained people. And you should be very proud of both the Arizona judiciary and of the Arizona elections people. And we've got to keep them clean. So, I mean, my personal view is I'm going to be voting against 137. I'm going to check out that meeting on September 4th at 4:30. It's going to be virtual, so everyone can attend. And I just want to thank Rav Shmuley for inviting me today. And I hope it's been helpful to you.
Excellent, Judy. Yes, very helpful, very, very informed and clear and amazing. Thank you so much. Of course, Arizona Youth for Justice, which is part of Valley Beit Midrash, is a 501c3. We don't endorse candidates or the like, but we do believe we have to be very informed and very active. The Jewish community disproportionately has been very active in civic engagement in America, partially because of our historic disenfranchisement for thousands of years, and partially because of our values that tell us Tikkun Olam, we have to affect society, do all we can to convert our values into action. So thank you all for participating. Judy, you're amazing. Thank you so much for teaching us tonight. And yes, we hope everyone will get involved. And we wish everyone many blessings. Today is Tu B'Av, the Jewish Valentine's Day. So spread some love somewhere in some direction and wish everyone a wonderful night.